Joining me now in this special telecast is Dr. Naresh Trehan. He's a chairperson and managing director of Medanta, the hospitals, the Medicity. And of course, he's a prominent cardiovascular surgeon as well. So my first question is, due to the dipping pollution levels, is the Medanta hospital reporting any specific or a higher number of cases related to pollution levels where the air quality has reached literally 500 and more?
Yes, that's very true that we have seen in the last few days, the number of people who are visiting our pulmonary OPD has tripled because of the fact that there are three categories of people who are coming. One is people who have pre-existing lung disease and their asthma or bronchiectasis is actually being precipitated by this high level of pollution, because with the high level of pollution means that the particulate matter irritates the lung. So it's already damaged, then it becomes much worse. Then you have those people who are marginal, who have some allergies or something, and that precipitates bronchospasm in them. And we are seeing a lot of people coming in with wheezing, headaches, and the mechanism is, again, particulate matter and also the noxious gases, because these are oxides of sulfur, carbon, nitrous. So these oxides then go dissolve into the blood and then go to different parts of the body. And most frequent symptom is headaches from that, because it irritates the membrane of the head. And
So,
the third category is children, that young children who never had any episodes of asthma or something are coming reported with bronchospasm. So that's all across the board. It is causing a lot of problem. Of course, tearing and irritable eyes is very common right now. But that doesn't bring people to the hospital, but they do complain of it.
So Dr. Trehan, let's go one by one now with the categories like you're mentioning. Let's begin with children. So I, for example, also have a toddler at home, and I'm concerned about the developing lungs, developing brain, and with the pollution that's increasing, perhaps there are other issues that we do not realize as well. So let's discuss children first. What kind of health hazards are they facing? What kind of impact? And how can we protect our children from this pollution?
So it works on several levels, but the two most important levels are, one, the particulate matter, and the high levels of 2.5 and 10, actually they go into the lungs and get deposited inside the small airbags that we have in lungs called alveoli. And that's where the irritation happens, that's where secretions happen, and then the lungs goes into spasm, which we call bronchospasm. So this is a repeated exposure, and that will cause this kind of syndrome, even in children who do not have pre-existing problems. Secondly, the point is that this is not like one time. It keeps depositing inside your lungs. So cumulatively, it becomes a very unhealthy thing for children who are growing up. So they will then, even if you don't see it today, then they will grow up with emphysema, with asthma, which are very, very debilitating lung diseases that are being triggered today because of this high level of pollution. The other thing that is even more dangerous for children is the noxious gases, like I told, oxides, nitrous oxide, sulfur dioxide, all these gases can go through the membranes and dissolve into the blood, and then the blood carries it everywhere. So in children especially, you can get neurological irritation, which means that their cognitive value can go down, their neurological development can be retarded, and there's a lot of studies done around the world. It's not only in India, around the world, that are well documented. The children who are exposed to repeated high levels of noxious gases caused by pollution and environmental contamination, they actually have a 10% difference in their cognitive values as compared to those children who grow up in healthy environment. So there is a price to pay, definite price to pay.
What protection would you suggest right away, of course, till the time we reach a solution? Whether do you think keeping them indoors is the best solution? Because then I feel bad for these children. You know, they've been during the pandemic, been indoors. Now it's the pollution. So it's not the childhood that a child should have in these states.
See, indoor air is no better unless you have
Correct.
your those affordable that you can afford air purifiers. That it does help, no question. But the only way to protect the children today is one, that during non-sunshine hours, because when the sun shines, if the sun is bright enough and it gets through, then it warms the gases and they lift. So the pollution level does go down in
Go
the
down.
middle of, okay. But that doesn't mean, so what I'm saying is schools is okay in the sense that even if you don't have, most of the people don't have air purifiers at home, then, there's no difference between classroom and this, but they have to travel by bus or whatever they do, that's a very high concentration of pollution. So now, the solution that we are asking for, which is the easiest, is that if we have become used to masks, even
Yes.
our children are used to masks. So this 3, 4, 5 week period where we've experienced this high level of toxicity, I think the children wear masks to protect themselves. N95, even a triple layer mask will give you some protection, but nothing better than a N95 because it will filter out 95 of the pollutants.
And it's important people who are listening do adhere to that. Let's talk about, sir, the elderly who clearly have respiratory issues to a major level compared to perhaps the middle age. What sort of impact, how to protect? And, are we also talking about beyond lungs and brains, health and heart issues here, that the pollution eventually does affect the heart as well, specifically of a certain age group?
No, exactly what happens to the lungs, we can also categorize the heart. Because when these oxides get dissolved into the blood, they are irritants. And these, you have pre-existing heart disease, naturally it increases, it passes through the arteries of the heart and irritates them. So you can precipitate a heart attack where on a pre-existing disease. You can you can produce spasm in the arteries. You can cause strokes and heart attacks. So it is not just a nuisance to have pollution. It is
Correct.
an active hazard to the health of everybody. And there's no excuse that this should happen year after year.
Exactly.
So the political football gets active and the blame game starts, but the citizen is the one who's really suffering, and the children even worse. So
Precisely. Yes.
if we are going to protect the future of our country, we must find solutions to this. There is umpteen number of people, talking heads on TVs every day, talking about giving good suggestions. But who's listening? Who's acting on it?
Dr. Trehan,
So
how are you looking at these emergency measures? Shut the schools, ban the constructions, switch off your car, don't take your car, don't burst firecrackers. These are immediate emergency measures. Do you think that these solutions help? Or what precautions otherwise do you suggest? Because what you're saying is very important. Governments need to listen. We have to have a long-term solution. This pollution is not unexpected. It's not caught us by surprise.
yes, so two things. One, no question, all the components that even make it worse, like construction, dust is very, very important. The dust from roads is another big pollutant. Then you have, of course, industrial. Then you must ban the diesel consuming whatever there is, or stop the buses and all that. That's the advantage of actually maybe taking a little furlough from the schools, because there are hundreds and hundreds of diesel buses on the street. So they must either they are CNG, or even CNG is not 100% pollution free. But the point is what you asked: construction, traffic
Banning
management,
schools.
road cleaning, the carpooling. I mean, and the advice of, say, for the next 2, 3 weeks, work from home. There's nothing wrong with it. You did it for 2 years. So that's why we must go back into, this is one of the other additional nuisance of life, living in places like we do, that we need to go back to basics and say, okay, we protected ourselves in COVID. Let's do the same protection for everybody, including our elderly, including our children. And the only thing is that you can take off your mask and eat together and stuff like that. Those are short periods of time, which you couldn't in COVID periods, but now you can. And that's why I think the best thing to do is just take these measures, because nobody else is helping. You can help yourself.